Here's a tricky one. Would you rather date a coworker or date a friend?
Yeah, that's a really great question. As crazy as it sounds, I think I'd rather date a coworker.
Welcome to Dating Yapps, the podcast where we swap wild dating stories, share laughs, and serve up real talk experiences and advice. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to Dating Apps. I'm your host, Alex Daly, and we are diving into the world of office romances today because haven't we all been there? I just feel like what is better than flirting a little bit by the coffee machine? And today I am joined by my friend Scott, who has a lot to say about this topic, the good, the bad, the silly. So welcome, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about this.
I am excited to talk about it too. We are going to get into it. We are going to also manifest a Eagles win for the Super Bowl. I think,
Absolutely.
by the time this comes out, the Super Bowl will have happened. So
Damn.
let's say that we won. So go Birds.
Yeah, we're either going to be in really great place or both pretty depressed about this. So
Right. But
the city was so. Did you go out and brought it all like after the NFC Championship game?
I didn't. I am holding out for a big win on the Super Bowls because I
Dude.
want to see the city go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I can only imagine how much crazier it's going to get if they actually do win the Super Bowl.
Oh,
So
yeah.
fingers crossed. But the vibe in the city has just been great.
Oh no, it was wild. People were like yelling. I was going to bed at like 1 a.m. that night and people were still walking home being like, "We're going to the Super
Yeah,
Bowl."
yeah. I'm like hearing fireworks from my house like at 2 in the morning. It's like it's so funny. It's a great time.
Well, we are days away, but by the time this comes out, it will have happened. So congratulations to the Birds who hopefully won the Super Bowl.
God, I hope we're not jinxing it. That'll look so bad.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Well, today we're going to get into more of your dating experience, Scott. I know that you have some experience with dating coworkers. We've talked a little
Sure,
bit about
sure.
it in the past, but I'm excited to get into it again. I don't really remember your story, so it's going to
Yeah,
be very fun for me to hear again as well.
yeah. I actually, so I've dated two coworkers, and I'd say both of them were successful.
We love to
But I
hear
guess
that.
yeah, exactly. It all kind of just depends on what your viewpoint of everything was. So
Totally. All right. Well, let's like warm up a little bit before we dive in and get the juicy
sure,
details.
sure.
Let's play a little game of this or that.
Okay.
Would you rather meet someone on the apps or meet someone at work?
So obviously I'm going to go with work. I've another little fun fact about me is I've only ever been on one dating app date. And
No
that was,
way.
yeah, that was like in 2016, 2017. It was like when they were pretty fresh and new. And the date was fine, but nothing great. And then, yeah, just from there, I've always kind of just dated through friends or through coworkers. So yeah,
Okay. So you're like, the apps are not for you. You're going to meet
absolutely, it's not
someone
for
in
me.
your life. And I guess the chances of meeting someone at work are probably higher than just like randomly on the street or something.
Yeah. And I've never been a big like hitting on someone at a bar kind of person.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a confidence thing for me or like I'm a huge. Do you know Enneagrams at all? I think we might have
Oh,
talked about
yeah.
this, but
No, we talked about this. We love
yeah.
Enneagram.
So
Yeah.
I'm like a type 9. So the idea of like putting someone in an uncomfortable situation at a bar by like hitting on them and they're not into it is like the worst, my worst fears. It's like I wouldn't want to do that to somebody.
Wait, what? Say a little bit more about what a type 9 is.
So it's essentially just it's like a peacemaker.
Mm.
So my whole thing is like I love my peace, like keeping my peace kind of thing. And I really am like empathetic to almost like a fault where I like feel what other people are feeling and that gets me in trouble sometimes because I'll assume what I think someone else is feeling when they might not be feeling that way.
Right. Okay. So being a peacemaker, hitting on someone at a bar, potentially making them uncomfortable is like your
Couldn't
worst
do
nightmare.
couldn't do it, yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I'm a 3, which is the like performer achiever, which I guess
Nice.
makes sense for me,
Yeah.
given that I take improv with you and now am wanting to host a podcast.
I love it. I love it.
I
I
still
think
feel like
aren't
the
nine
2,
and
but
three like connected in some one of those like I don't know the
I
diagram
don't
well
know. I
enough,
think
but I think
we're gonna have to dive in. Maybe we can do a
yeah,
whole episode about enneagrams. I think
love
that's a
that.
great
I love
idea.
that.
Okay, but back to your dating preferences. All right, so we know you like to meet someone in real life. Um, Here's a tricky one. Would you rather date a coworker or date a friend?
Yeah, that's a really great question. As crazy as it sounds, I think I'd rather date a coworker because, again, I just like if you're like a really good friend of mine, I don't want to. There's an inherent risk of dating anybody
Yeah.
that you might just aren't compatible or not work out, and I just wouldn't want to lose a friend in that instance where it's, in my opinion, easier to probably just lose a coworker or like have things be a little weird at work.
Yeah, have things be weird at work versus losing a friend. That makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as you don't lose your job, I guess there's less at risk by dating a coworker. Okay, so let's say you are dating a coworker. Are you gonna flirt via Slack or flirt via in the kitchen by the water cooler?
So I definitely like a Slack person. I oh
Oh,
yeah, even though it's like very much a paper trail, and I'm
yeah.
sure HR could definitely find it. It's all flirting, like work appropriate flirting, nothing like crazy. Yeah, when I feel like it's a good mix to be like at work you can be professional. Like I'm not gonna flirt with you like at the water cooler, but we can in a private IM or IM. Does anyone even say that anymore? Private Slack. I we can get a little bit more flirty.
That wow. So you're like, I don't care if somebody from IT is reading this, then you're
I
welcome.
yeah, I mean, generally, I think I probably could have pulled it back a little bit, but at the end of the day, if my company's really that worried about what I'm sending like privately, then we got bigger problems.
That's true. That is so fair. All right. So then that brings me to my last question for you at work. If you're dating someone, would you keep it a secret or are people going to know about it?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I think it's important to keep it a secret for as long as you guys are comfortable with doing it. You don't want to lie, like you don't want to be in a situation where you're also lying to people at work, especially if like your work has rules about office relationships. But in my opinion, it's like if this is just kind of in the early stages of getting drinks with each other, figuring things out, like there's no point to talk about it to everybody because if it doesn't work out, then everyone's going to be like, well, what the hell happened? So,
So true, so true. And I feel like it could get more awkward potentially if people are like checking in on you on the early stages of dating your
yeah.
coworker.
Yeah. And then there's a certain like it just becomes so real when other people are involved in that way. Like when your other coworkers are also like, "Oh, so how's this going? Like what like I have a funny story about that with my most recent office romance where it was just like it kind of got to a point where like so many people were asking me about it. It's like I'm like let's not worry about this right now.
That's so fair. And I feel like I'm picking up maybe on a little bit of commitment issues, maybe.
Yeah,
And not wanting
maybe.
to tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's fair. No, it's fair. In early dating, you don't want to talk about it too much in any case. So I'm
Yeah.
with you there. All right. So then, I mean, let's get into it, Scott. I know that you have had some experiences with dating coworkers. Set the scene for us. How long ago was this? Where were you working? You don't have to tell us like location, name of the
Yeah, yeah.
company, but like tell us a little bit of context.
Yeah, no worries. So, the first one was when I was 25 years old. This was pretty much my first real job out of college. And I moved down south for a little bit. And the company was really, really fun, but it kind of was like the vibe was very party and very like hanging out. And like when we would have a company party or a company like meeting, they would like put us all in one single Airbnb. Like
Oh,
it was just like a free for all kind of thing. It wasn't very professional in the sense that like everyone gets their own hotel room, and it was kind of like yeah, you guys are all thrown in this Airbnb. Here's a bunch of beer, and like we would just because
it was a party house.
we worked for a brewery, so it was
Okay.
yeah. So that was my first kind of jump into dating a coworker. And problem was because I was a stupid 25-year-old boy, is I was sort of not sort of I was hooking up with two of them, which was obviously a mistake.
At the
Um,
simultaneously. No, I mean, not like not this
yes,
wasn't group, not group.
yes, no. It wasn't a group thing, but it was like again, I didn't consider dating either of them. It was like a we're kind of just having fun. We're hooking up. Let's see where this is coming from. And I had a really big crush on one of them, but I didn't think that anything was going to happen of that one. So that kind of made me like pursue the second option a little bit more. And then everything kind of came to a head.
Okay, wait, hold on. Back up. So you're seeing two of them, you like one of them, but you don't think you have a chance with her, so you start hooking up with someone else just in case that other one doesn't work out?
Well, so it was kind of. I mean, and you're really making me dig back in the memory bank for this because it would it. Trust me, that I sound really bad in this story because I made a lot of mistakes. But
No, we're here for it. We are here for the
you
mistakes.
know,
We want to hear
exactly. And
them.
this is honestly one of like the first times I've like opened up about it in more than just like a joking way, like in improv. Um, I it wasn't like a okay, this isn't going to work out, so let me just see what this other thing is. It was one of these like instances where both of these hookups were just kind of happening at the same time. And again, incorrectly, I was compartmentalizing it, being like, okay, this is just like two adults hooking up. We can be adults about this. And I think that's going to be a huge theme in my whole office romances is compartmentalizing, which maybe like you're saying is like a commitment thing, but in my head I was like these are just consenting adults doing their own thing. And
Okay.
then it got to the point where I was like, okay, well I'm like I have true feelings and I cannot continue to do both, so I have to choose one.
And
And
neither of them knew that you were also seeing or hooking up with the other one. Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they found out, and I had to, you know, kind of deal with this whole situation that I put myself in, and that's where I would say things just kind of went pretty poorly. Like
Well, yeah. Say more about that. How did they find out?
there was a Christmas party, and they were both like flirting with me, and I think one could tell that I was kind of like pushing her a little away and
Ooh.
putting more attention to the other one. And I think that night it kind of just like came to a head and like they were like, we have to just talk about this. And understandably, the woman that I didn't like I was like I'm gonna go with the other one. She was pretty upset, but I think to her credit and to everyone's credit, we did kind of keep it separate from work, or at least to my knowledge, no one really brought this into coworkers and being like, "This is all messy. This is all happening." It looked really bad on me because people kind of like figured it out.
Because you were
Um,
also kind of like the office slut.
hundred
It
percent.
sounds like.
100%. And it's embarrassing because it was like what the first of all, it's bad enough to just randomly hook up with one of your coworkers and then to do two makes no sense. And then to then continue to date that other one for a while afterwards. I think it was just one of those moments where I was like, okay, that that we didn't walk out of that unscathed. That was pretty bad. And like I was only with that company again for like another year and a half probably. By the end it was kind of like water under the bridge, but there was definitely like a moment where it was stupid. And I think back to it, and like I said, it's just a 25-year-old being a stupid 25-year-old. And I generally, I know your listeners are going to not agree, but I generally think I'm a pretty mature for my age kind of person. And that was an instance where I completely acted like a stupid boy.
You acted your age. Honestly, for 25 working at a brewery, I think that's what you should have been doing. So I think it's fine. But
Yeah.
I do have some questions. I am dying to know now that you said that you liked one of them better to begin with. Is that who you ended up dating for
Yeah.
longer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she and I ended up dating for like 3 years.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah,
so you got like a whole relationship out of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And
We
were you coworkers the whole time that you were dating?
no, we were coworkers for probably like a year of it, and then she went to a new job, and and I stuck with the company for a little bit, like for probably another year and a half after she had left, and then we dated for like a year post neither of us being in that company.
Okay. And then during that time, was the other girl also still working at this company
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
broke things up? Oh, okay.
yeah,
So
yeah. She
how
stuck
did that
around for a
go?
while. Not great. It was yeah, that one was just tough. And again, I she's perfectly in her right to be upset, like as upset she was with me because I, you know, screwed her over. And I think we got to a point where we were like perfectly professional, but like I think a couple months after everything came to a head and she was pretty pissed at me, had like this assigned project that we had to work together with. And it was like this culture week, this like week long of events that I was running the events. She was like going to all the bars to make sure that they have all the product, and then we'd have to like go to these happy hours together. And it was just like a very uncomfortable situation. Like neither of us wanted to be there. And again, kind of going back to my Enneagram, like I'm such a big let's not make this worse than it like not let's not be more uncomfortable than we have to be. Like we can try to enjoy this little moment here, or like we can at least not make our other coworkers uncomfortable. But they didn't really vibe that same way. It was pretty
Yeah.
obvious she wasn't talking to me.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the consequences of dating a coworker is it could end and then it could be awkward and then you could be forced to like
Yeah.
work together side by side. Did it feel like a lot of tension?
Yeah, it was bad. It was a pretty like shitty couple months of doing that. And then that's kind of when it was like my manager kind of knew and was like you have to do this. I'm not pulling you off this project kind of thing. And again, I didn't do a good job of this when I was 25, but like the communication of it all. Like if you go into it being like, "Hey, we're just kind of like hooking up. We both find each other attractive. Like let's just hook up." I think that might make it easier when you kind of cut things off. But then of course like the double coworker situation just is a
I
mess.
I think yeah, dating one coworker is you're taking a risk. Dating two is like
Yeah, it was stupid.
you're kind of asking for it at that point,
Yeah,
but there are pros and cons and we weigh them out. I feel like at that point in your life at 25, like you might as well, whatever, have some fun. But yeah,
yeah.
you have to be ready for those consequences of having it be weird and awkward. It almost feels like a little bit like high school,
Oh,
like
it very much was, and I was kind of like shocked because, you're a few years out of college at that point, like you're kind of like getting to that maturity, and I was like, I know this is a bad situation, but she kind of went like a scorched earth kind of route, and I was like, I don't know if we need to be doing
yeah.
that. So
Yeah. No, fair. You have to have the maturity to be like, okay, it didn't work out, but we're here, we're
yeah,
working. Okay.
and then I give the girl that I ended up dating for 3 years a lot of credit because she was unnecessarily thrown into all of this, unwillingly thrown into all of this, and then not only like had to deal with that, like also stuck by me in a way that like she didn't really have to. And again, I have so much respect for her for doing that. And then like she pretty much told me at the beginning, she was like, "You got to figure this shit out, and then we can like start dating seriously." She was like, "This is really messy right now. Like, get this all figured out, get it together, and then we can kind of like really start a relationship."
Yeah. No, that's fair. And we love to hear it. You got a good relationship. I can't believe it lasted for 3 years
Yeah,
from a coworker.
yeah, yeah.
That's incredible. So, Scott, so this story was a while ago. You you dated two coworkers. You ended up getting a long-term relationship out of one of them. Very
Yeah.
impressive. So,
Yeah.
curious. I feel like our listeners are going to want to know, are you single today? Are you in a relationship? What's happening?
Yeah, no, I am in a relationship,
And
and
yeah, and where did you meet your current girlfriend, Scott?
I met my current girlfriend at my job, my last job, different company, but yes,
So
I
we
also
did
met her.
not learn our lessons.
No, no, but I will say I did a little.
Okay.
I took a lot of my learnings into this relationship to over communicate and to not hook up with another coworker at
At
the
the
same
same
time.
time.
Yeah, it was big learning opportunity.
I mean, honestly, I'm impressed that you've had so many connections at work. Like, how did it come about with your current girlfriend? Was it like a slow burn? Were you flirty right away? What
No,
was the
yeah, it
vibe?
was a slow burn. It was kind of like pretty organic. When I started with my last company, I'm no longer there anymore, but when I started with them, it was in the pandemic. So the office kind of was like a weird hybrid. It wasn't like anything set. So then I started with them in Delaware, which is where I was living, and then I moved up. back up to Philly and I joined their Philly office, and that's where my current girlfriend was working. And when I joined the Philly office, the vibe was kind of like strange. Like it was like the coworkers weren't really friendly. Everyone was on alternating schedules, so like the office was like half empty most of the time. So I like noticed her there. Actually, the first time I'd ever met my girlfriend was she was sitting across the desk across from me. We had a little compartment between us, but she was sitting there. And like the second day I was there, she actually moved her desk, and I was like, "Wow, this girl hates me." Like I don't know what I did, but she
Oh, she
clearly
moved,
doesn't
like,
like her.
farther away from you.
Yeah, it was all coincidence. Like there was a better, like you know how there's like good spots in the office, like good
Mhm.
desk spots and bad desk spots. Like a good desk spot opened up. She was like, "I have to take this." So she hopped over there. But that was my first interaction with her was like, "Oh shit, she doesn't like me very much."
And then how did that change?
Then we came out of COVID. We were in the office a lot more. I like to make friends with my coworkers. I kind of equate it to like, you know how you had like high school friends, but like you didn't really hang out with them outside of school, but like when you were
Mhm.
at school with them, like you'd see them all the time and you'd just be like really good friends. That's how I equate my coworkers. I'm like, we spend 40 plus hours a week with, I'm like, I want to know you guys and I want to like have fun. So we had a really good group of people, like the whole group in Philly was just a fun group, and we were all kind of just like hanging out and shooting the shit a lot. That's when I noticed her, and she's super beautiful, and she was so good with clients that we worked with, and I was just like, wow, like I'd really like to get to know this person more. That's kind of where that slow burn started. Was like not even necessarily like I want to hook up with this person. It was just like I'm just fascinated by this person. I really want to get to
Aw.
know her. Yeah.
Aw, so you admired her. That's so
Yeah,
sweet.
I really did. It's corny as it sounds. One of the things I like first remember like having a little crush about her was someone made a joke and she laughed, and I was like, oh my god, her laugh is so cute.
You
And
were
that
you were in
was
love. You were smitten.
I really was. And then my coworker, she's like one of my best friends. I told her that I had this crush, and I told her because I knew she's the type of person that's going to do something about it.
But she would tell her?
She would like conspire something, like get the cogs moving, and she did just that. And she's to this day she takes credit for getting us together because she was like, if it wasn't for me, it wasn't gonna happen. And I'm like, no, dude, I told you because I knew you were gonna get her, like you're gonna tell her, and you're gonna get like this thing going.
That
That was
was
very that was
that
high
was
school
your
with me.
plan. Like, yeah, get a third party involved. You're like,
Yeah.
"Tell Stacy I like her. Ask her yes
Mm-hmm.
or no."
Mm-hmm. I pretty much wrote a note essentially that, yeah.
That's really cute though. But yeah, so it sounds like you were just into each other, which is
Yeah.
really cute. Do you think you would have met if not for being coworkers?
I think that's a great question. I wonder because Philly it's a pretty small city. Like you bump into the same people all the time at places, but like I said, I don't hit on people at bars, so uh, probably not. I really think her getting to know me on a personal level, like probably helped the
Yeah.
idea of us dating because she was kind of not dating at the time. I think she was going on like a couple months of like, I don't want to be on the apps. I don't want to be on a date. Like she just had so many bad dates that she kind of like, I learned after the fact how she put herself out there to go on a date with me after kind of like being like, I'm not dating anymore.
Yeah, so it kind of worked out in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right that meeting someone at work gives you the opportunity to get to know them a little bit more first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can have kind of like that slower build to like getting to know them, seeing if there's a connection, seeing if there's a
Exactly.
flirty vibe versus like when you're on the apps, it's like you have to figure that out sort of like immediately. And it's hard to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. That's why I don't understand how people can make that like snap decision based on like a couple of texts back and forth. That has
Yeah.
to be really challenging.
It is. It's not easy. And yeah, you do have a little bit more time to see someone, see how they're interacting with other people when you're
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
them, see how they communicate, and it gives you a little bit better chance to get to know them. So in that way, that does give you a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I learned from the past experience to this one was like we truly dated. Like we went on a few dates, we were like hanging out with each other a few times. Whereas the other one started as hookups. So
Mm,
like I
yeah.
think that kind of messes it up a little bit. Um, like she makes fun of me because it took me 3 dates to kiss her.
Aw.
And I say that I went into the first date being like, I'm not, again, learning. There you go, Alex. I was like, I'm not going to kiss my coworker on the first date. I'm like, we're just grabbing drinks. We're just going to see if there's any sort of flame here, any spark. Then I don't know if I drove her that one or not, but we'll just say goodbye and whatever. Then the second date is where she doesn't believe me, but I drove her back home. We grabbed like a beer after work, and then I drove her home. She got out of the car so quickly that I couldn't even give her, like, I couldn't even lean in for the kiss. And she was like, well, I don't know why you never kissed me on the second date. And I was like, you literally, like, I parked the car and you opened the door and you were out. I'm like, well,
Okay,
all right,
bye.
Jesus, yeah. And then on the third date, I finally gave her a kiss. So that I think was a nice, like, even more, because like you know the person a little bit through
Mhm.
work, but then it's like getting to know them outside of work is a whole other thing. So yeah,
Totally. Yeah. And I feel like that's smart. You did learn your lesson. You're like, okay, we're not just going to hook up. I'm not going to rush into this. It makes
yeah,
more sense because if you are going to continue working with them and it doesn't work out and you like had an awkward hookup, like,
yeah.
it could get weird real quick.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was my biggest like intentional going into this being like, all right, Scott, you really fucked it up when you're 25. You're 30 now. Let's really try to do this a little bit more maturely. And I really think that like the slow organic build plus communicating with her about like how are we feeling? Are we comfortable with this? How do we want to handle this while we're at work? That I think was something I just straight up didn't have at the last time.
Totally. I mean, a different life stage, but how did you handle it at work, like dating someone in a professional setting?
Yeah, it was pretty like I'll give us credit. It was pretty organic. One, we made sure that this company allowed us to have a relationship and we were able to because we weren't in the same departments and neither of us were like a level above one another.
Mhm.
So that was helpful that we worked in the same company, but we never had like overlapping projects. We never had overlapping clients. So it was really just like getting to hang out with her every day, which was
Yeah.
fun. But we kept it a secret for a while, I think. And I think like she and I were official, like said, like this is like we want to be boyfriend girlfriend. This is a serious thing for us. And then I think we slowly kind of told people about it.
That's smart. And again, you had the experience to learn from in the past and
Yeah.
you approach it differently this time. And I think you guys said you're not coworkers anymore. So you
No.
yeah.
But I think one of my biggest learnings about this whole experience is like if this is going to be a sustainable work thing, I don't, or a relationship thing, I don't think that you can continue to work together for a long time.
Oh, okay.
That is my thought. Just because, like, there's so much about work and there's so much in your relationship that when they mix together, it kind of just gets like old at a certain point. And I can even feel it like once when I left and joined another company, like how nice it was to like her work drama is her work drama, my work drama is, and like I can sympathize with the stuff that she's going through because I know all of the coworkers, I know the company, but it's not like I'm also dealing with the same shit kind of thing.
Yeah. No, it would be a lot if you're working and dating someone. It's like your lives are already so
Yeah,
enmeshed and you could also get bogged down in like work shit and just find yourselves talking about work all day
all the
long
time.
and like
Yeah,
who wants to do that?
yeah, 100%. We'd be like on our dates and be like, all right, like one more thing about work, and then we have to stop talking about it.
Yeah, totally. It just like becomes too much. That does make a lot of sense. So, is that why you got a new job?
No, it's not why. I think
Yeah.
it was definitely like when deciding to, because like I mentioned, I have a lot of great old coworkers there. I enjoyed like hanging out with them. But when got this new job offer, one of the things that was like part of my decision was like, well, I get to, have that separation from her career and my career, and it's probably for the best.
Yeah.
My dad even said that when I was going over this career move decision, and he was like, one of the things to consider is having that separation. So
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that is ultimately the like healthy thing to do. It would be really hard to like see someone at work and then see someone after work and then what are you going to talk about? Also, you're like, how was your day? I know how your day
yeah, I
was.
saw everything. Yeah, especially like once like we weren't living together, so it's like if imagine we had been like we would leave to go to work together, we'd spend all day at work together and come home. It would just be like, yeah,
24/7.
it would
No,
have
it's
been
a
too much.
lot. Yeah, no, and it reminds me of like when I was a ballet dancer, and some people, I mean, ballet is like a kind of incestuous environment because it's like you're hanging out with these people all the time, you're
Yeah.
wearing like minimal clothing, so like
Hmm.
people do tend to date each other a lot in that scenario. Luckily, I did not because ballet boys are bad news. We can talk about that another time,
I'd
but
I'd love to hear more about that.
um, but like I would see the couples that were there and they're like basically working together all day. They're like dancing together. And I would see them like critiquing each other. They'd be like, you know what, you need to work on your pirouettes. And I was just like, that is not what I want to hear from my boyfriend. I just want him
Yeah.
to show up and be like, you looked really pretty. Like,
Yeah, I completely agree. I
yeah.
completely agree. Especially like imagine getting in like being really pissed off about something at work or ballet and like coming to them and saying that and they just disagree. They're like, "No, that's not how I feel at all." You'd be like, "Shut up. I don't want you to disagree with me right now. I just want you to like tell me I'm right."
Yeah, just have my back. I don't want you
Yeah.
to be like, no, what, you need to work harder if you're going to get that part. Like,
Yeah. No, no
you
way.
need to work harder if you're going to get that promotion, Scott. Come on.
Mhm. Mhm.
No, no, not for me. So then would you, at the end of the day, would you recommend dating a coworker to someone else?
That's such a heavy question. I think ultimately yes, as long as it takes so much responsibility and like so much more than just like regular dating because you can't just throw your hands away and just like leave because you have to see that person again. So I think as long as you and the person that you're dating are like over communicating and talking about when things are getting weird, I would, but I'd say it's a lot harder than a normal relationship because
Yeah.
so many other aspects of your life are mixed in. So
Yeah.
I think I think it's yeah, I would recommend it because it's a great way to like know the person before you start dating them, but it obviously has such a high risk to it as well.
Yep. You taking a risk. I mean, you're taking a risk anytime you're dating, but for sure when you're
Yeah,
tying it to work, there's a little bit more at play. So you
yeah.
have to like weigh your options, weigh your risks, and make your own decision.
Like this is similar but different. But one of my buddies, he goes to this bar all the time, and he has such a crush on the bartender. And he was talking to me about like what should I do? Like what do you think? And I'm like, again, I'm like I've dated coworkers before. This is similar but different. And I'm like, you have to know that if you ask this bartender out and they say no, that you can't come back to this bar. Like it's
Yeah.
unfair for them that like that's their place of work and you just show up. Same thing with like a work romance. Not to say you have to like leave your job, but if you go and do this and things break up, you have to sit in the uncomfortable feeling that is, you know, working with someone that you used to hook up with or date. It's
Yeah.
strange.
I mean, sitting with the discomfort, we can do a whole episode about that. But yeah, also the thing with the bartender is I feel like your friend should know, probably does know, that a bartender's job is also to like flirt with you and like
Yes,
make
a
you feel
hundred
good.
percent.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like kind of like she might not be in love with you back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
But you're right. You're right. He would have to be okay with not going back to that bar.
Yeah,
So you take your risks.
absolutely.
And office romances are a risk. You're taking a risk. It's a little bit of a tricky game, but I'm glad that it worked out for you, Scott.
Well, let me ask you, after hearing everything
Yeah.
and you know whatever life experience that you have with everything, what are your thoughts on office hookups and romances?
It's tricky. I've definitely never had a like relationship come out of work. I think it's natural that you are going to be sometimes flirty. Like I think
Yeah,
having an office crush is fun because
yeah,
it at least gives you like something to look forward to at work and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to put on a cute little outfit,
yeah,
whatever."
yeah.
But I doubt I would ever do anything more than like casually flirt with a coworker.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it matters too, like how serious like your career like not is to you, but like if this is like a spot where it's like I want to be with this company forever, like don't risk this. This isn't
Right.
it's pretty low as far as professionally. I'd say there's almost no benefit to hooking up with a coworker, but you know, personally it can be a lot of fun and it could work out. So
Yeah. And sometimes we do things for the story.
That's my whole life, Alex. That is my whole life.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for chatting with me about this. It's been super fun,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that you dating coworkers have worked out for you. I mean, God bless.
Yeah. Jeez. I appreciate this. This was a lot of fun, though. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening. Thanks for following along. If you liked this podcast, please share it with a friend. And until next time, we will talk to you later, friends.